Welcome to Adams Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back for this episode where I've got to say, I called it yesterday. Made an episode yesterday, if y'all didn't catch it, talking about how we are in World War III, whether or not you want to admit it, whether or not you want to believe it. It is being fought differently than many thought it would be. A lot of it is fifth generational warfare being fought online through digital media campaigns and through something that I first came across. The idea that I came across was through a TED Talk, a TED presentation. At this presentation, the man said, just as I asked you all yesterday if you had heard of this particular podcast or presentation, the gentleman is speaking about how drones, some as small as a small dinner plate, some can be as large as Reaper drones, and how these drones they can have software uploaded to them with facial recognition software that can be used to hunt you down anywhere. This facial recognition software can gather your face or images of your face from any of the apps that you've given permission to that abuse your data or send your data to the Chinese Communist Party, such as TikTok, who we know, by the way, does capture, record, and store private sensitive information such as your facial recognition or your thumbprint. So it'd be very easy to upload your information into this target packaging software. So I called it. I said, perhaps the new way that wars will be fought is through drone warfare. All that the U.S. has been engaged in, even throughout the Iraq War, which was never officially declared by Congress, was a proxy drone strike war. Granted, we had boots on the ground, but eventually it became a drone strike war. And that's how we're fighting in Iran and Syria and Saudi Arabia right now. Drone strikes. Not a real war, not sanctioned by Congress. And then today, as I'm catching up on the news, I come across this article from Forbes, in which they've titled it, here, let me pull this up together so we can all check it out together. It's titled, Russia Braces for Attack by 50,000 Ukrainian Russia braces for attack by 50,000 Ukrainian kamikaze drones and seeks shotguns. Now in this article, by David Hambling, they write, Russian social media on the Ukraine war is buzzing with fear of an imminent attack by thousands of small kamikaze drones that could overwhelm their front lines. Posts by a blogger using the handle Russian Engineer usually get a few thousand views, but one of his latest entries has now been seen 1.9 million times. Ukrainian military and political observer Alexei Arestovich says they are preparing a drone offensive. And in January, Ukrainian General Command announced the formation of new tactical drone assault units. Russian Engineer has put these together with information from other sources to predict an onslaught of miniature attack drones. Quote, recently it has become known that, in terms of drones, buyers of the armed forces of Ukraine have bought up almost the entire market of FPV drone components in China, according to indirect estimates, by 50 to 100,000 units, writes the Russian Engineer. They have already trained more than 1,000 operators of these models. They make them into kamikaze with a shaped charged warhead from RPG-7, or with a fragmentation grenade, and they have accumulated all this before the offensive. And here's a picture of these kamikaze drones. You can see the little device on top. That's the drone attached with a warhead. In this case. Now again, you can use the same size drone to carry a much smaller payload. This is designed to destroy vehicles of different sorts. Now later in the article, they write racing drones, also known as FPV or first-person view drones, are smaller than standard quadcopters, but have powerful motors giving speeds of 120 miles an hour or more. They lack the sophisticated electronics for steady hover and smooth flight for good camera work. Instead, they are designed for high speed, seat of the pants flying around demanding courses piloted using video goggles. Drone racing is a popular sport in many countries. Now, the powerful motors mean that at some loss of speed and endurance, an FPV drone can carry a heavy payload, including an anti-tank RPG warhead or RKG-3 grenade, though it may need extra batteries. Now, while this arrangement may not look airworthy, FPV drones are lethally effective weapons. Again, you saw in that picture, what, maybe 10 warheads? They could take out 10 tanks, 10 trucks, 10 Humvees, whatever you will. They could batter enemy trench lines with those. Or, again, going back to the TED Talk, you can load a small ballistic shell of some sort, of some caliber, that is timed and detonated to explode in the middle of your skull based off the facial recognition software upload. So not only can these be used for personal direct attacks, these can be used against military-sized units, right? Let's read a little bit more. It says Ukrainian forces carried out their first improvised FPV drone attack in July, with the quadcopter diving through an open doorway into a building occupied by Russian troops before exploding. And here's just a stack of the kamikaze type of drones. And in some of the other videos that you can find from some of these drone attacks in Russia by the Ukrainians, you can see like the drone carrying a warhead right over Russia troops or right over a Russian tank and drops it right on target. Very effective. Very deadly. It says, they continue, they write, since then, FPV attacks have proliferated with numerous videos of strikes on trenches, tanks, personnel carriers, and other targets. One compilation video shows a series of FPV drones diving into the open hatches of Russian tanks. Another shows a Russian tank sheltering under a bridge before FPV drones stalk and strike. The success rate is usually quoted at something over 50%. So in other words, it's worth the cost. The key point about the FPV attack drones is that compared to other guided weapons and loitering munitions, they are cheap and easily available, like we just said. In a previous blog post, Russian engineer listed the components needed to assemble an FPV attack drone with a total cost of $355 or a grand total of $421 with digital communications rather than analog. Others quote similar price ranges in the range of hundreds of dollars, depending on the exact specification, notably less than the $2,000 price tag for a pro quadcopter. That's somewhat interesting because, again, in one of my previous videos, I talked about how Biden finally let the U.S. attack a Chinese spy balloon, and we missed. And then we finally hit it. We shot 2 missiles at a balloon. Each one cost $40,000. So it took us $80,000 to shoot down a weather balloon, a spy balloon. I asked you then, should we not have just shot a 50 caliber bullet at it? I mean, we still had machine guns attached to at least some of our fighter jets, right? Wouldn't it be more wise to spend $20, $30 on some bullets? Maybe we would have missed 10. Cool. We would have had a grand total of $300. Instead, we shot 2 $40,000 missiles because we missed ones. A weather balloon cost us $80,000 to shoot down when it could have cost tens of dollars, maybe a few hundred. That's the idea behind these drone strikes. If you can assemble one attack drone for the cost of, let's say, an average of $400, just think about the number that you can make for against the supply cost, right? You can get, again, if you want to go with this warhead scenario, you can only afford to buy so many warheads to put on these drones. But if you go through kind of what I talked about through those TED Talks, a small ballistics cartridge, you can afford thousands, tens of thousands, millions of these cartridges. And then instead of spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on one piece of munition, you could fill up an entire aircraft carrier full of drones, full with warheads or munitions of whatever type you see fit, and you could have millions of them for the price of several hundred warheads. Like I said, this is where war is seeming to be going, not just through fighting digital campaigns online, but drones. And what are you going to do about it? Well, the Russians so far, it says, let's see, Russian engineer ponders how to counter the kamikazes. Radio jamming is the obvious method, but this so far has not been effective against FPV drones. They say, our electronic warfare installations have many drawbacks. There are not many of them. They are large and are in themselves interesting targets. You need a lot of small electronic warfare installations so that they are everywhere. He also mentions the shortage of portable anti-drone guns, which also jams the drone's control signals. Something more basic might be necessary. According to the feedback from the fighters, a shotgun helps specifically against such FPVs, specifically the Saiga 12, writes Russian engineer. They fly at low altitudes, and a good shooter may well shoot down this drone. And here's a picture of the Saiga 12, Russian military shotgun. It says the Saiga 12 is a Russian military shotgun, a semi-automatic 12-gauge design based on the Kalashnikov AK design. While a shooter with a steady nerve and good aim might be able to hit a small FPV drone coming in at 100 miles an hour or more, this is a game where anything less than a perfect score is likely to mean instant death. No images of drones brought down by shotgun have yet appeared. So then let's go to this next just kind of set of headlines I pulled up here from DuckDuckGo. Iran is to produce drones in Russia. Western intelligence claims secret deal amid the Ukraine war. And then just kind of browsing, you can see these heroic police officers shoot down Russian kamikaze drone. Why Russia is using kamikaze drones in Ukraine. Do you remember from not too long ago this article? Ukraine, Russia blasts Kiev with kamikaze drones. So, I mean, it's been utilized currently. But now it would seem anyway that Ukraine is trying to make a point of this being the type of munition they want to end this war with. And maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. I mean, at some point, Ukraine has to face the realization of what is Russia going to do if they lose? Are they going to accept losing? I don't think so. Not by what the Kremlin and all of his heads of state have said, all of his war chiefs have said. I do believe that Russia is in this for the long haul or for nothing. That they have everything to lose with this campaign that they are in. And they will give everything to make sure that they win. That's why I said a long time ago, maybe we should have helped the Ukrainians in the beginning, like we did. But at some point, we needed to say, sorry, this is y'all's war. This is your side of the world. These are your policies that are affecting you, not us. What happened to all of your allies that are right next door? Where are they to support you? Why do we have to send all of our tanks, our oil, our gas, our supplies to you? Why do we have to supply you with things that we can't even supply Americans with? How is Volodymyr Zelensky going to demand that Americans fight and die in his war for him? It's all just a little too fishy, especially with the deals that the Bidens have with Ukraine and China energy companies that are essentially what brought us into this war to begin with, is Joe Biden trying to pay off his financial debts and obligations to Ukraine and to China. And because he needs to pay off his debts, he says, we're going to support Ukraine until the end of the war. Do you even realize what the end of the war means? Have you thought about what it actually means? The end of the war means either Russia wins and conquers Ukraine the way that they want, or there's some kind of intervention and Russia nukes whoever's going to make them lose. And not just a nuke like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They will obliterate their enemies off the face of this map. They've said that very much themselves. So I have warned you, my friends. It is coming. Drone strikes like this, you won't know they're coming. They're already here. This type of warfare is already here. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to see it coming. You're not going to stop it with your stupid 12-gauge shotgun. You will lose. And we have our thankless, and we have to thank our feckless leader for getting us into this mess. So how are we going to get out of it? With our oil that we produce, with our gas that we produce, with our ammunition and all of our bombs that we have just sitting in a stockpile. Same with our strategic national oil stockpile that we still have. Just kidding, we don't have that. Joe Biden sold our oil, sold all our ammunition, sold all our bombs. How are we going to fight a war? How are we going to defend ourselves? We're not. So we all need to be real with ourselves and wake up. Some bad shit is coming down the pipelines. Your feckless politicians and government refuse to stand up for what's right. Your feckless politicians will lie to you about why we are involved in this proxy war, just as your politicians will lie to you about what you need to do to help Ukraine. You've done enough, my friends. You have done enough for that suffering country. Sometimes nations fall and nations rise. That's how it goes. I'm sorry to speak the truth. It hurts, I know. That's okay. We're getting ourselves embedded in a problem that we don't understand. One, that we're not willing to deal with. Two, that we're not willing to win, no matter the consequence. We have no resolve. We have no backbone. We have no strength. What is America going to do? What are your politicians going to do for you? Have they called for war? Have they called our allies to ask for support? Have they demanded that Joe Biden honor the treaties that every president since the 1960s has broken? The reason we're in this fight is because the West has continued ever since Clinton, ever since Bush, ever since Obama, ever since Trump, and ever since Biden. The West has pushed the Western lines or the United Nations lines closer to Russia, which is what we promised not to do at the end of the Cold War. And here we are doing it. Every president since, Republican and Democrat, dragging us into World War III, egging it on, encouraging it, wanting it. There's no better moneymaker than war, don't you know? Anyway, my friends, all I can tell you is that you got to vote. You got to vote to change this shit. This diseased, corrupt system, this uniparty that we keep voting for, it's wrong. There's a few okay people in politics right now that are worth watching and following and potentially worth voting for. But too many people have just been, I don't even know. Are we too pissed off at the election, at the electoral system? Is it that we don't trust it enough? What is it that we're not going out to vote our minds, to speak our minds? Why is it that we're not voting for better people? We keep complaining about this, that, and the other thing, and then we vote for the same people. I mean, I don't. I've changed my vote pattern consistently, you can call it. One year I voted independent. Next year I voted Republican. Next year, I think it might have been independent, Republican. I don't remember. Anyway, don't vote just party. You have to vote for values. Does this person line with your values? No? Screw them. It's not a popularity contest. If it's become a popularity contest, count me out. I don't want nothing to do with this anymore. Anyway, I mean, I could just ramble on in circles for minutes. I'll leave it there. And together, maybe down in the comments, we can chat about how do we fix this? How do we change this? Who do we talk to bring attention to this, to fix this, to address this? I'll see y'all in the comments section. And I've got a bunch of short videos coming out over the next couple weeks. I apologize, there hasn't been much content on my channel lately. I was recently moving, and there's some other stuff going on in life that just had me a little too busy to upload for the last couple weeks. But I've got a ton of videos, ton of content. Just came out with 2 videos yesterday, today, and I've got shorts coming out every single day for the next couple weeks. So please feel free to come by, check out the channel anytime when you're getting bored, want to learn some more, just sitting on the toilet. I appreciate y'all coming back, and I will see you soon.